Hello and welcome. I am so excited to be here with you with one of my favorite topics, which is confidence. And as a woman, it is certainly a hot topic and something that we're always working on. It's very easy in this process in sales mastery to have your confidence be triggered, or for you to have a sales conversation and at the end of it, you're beating yourself up or you're judging yourself for everything that went wrong in the sales conversation and how the client didn't book and it was because you did this or you didn't do that or you did this. And the point is that the worst possible thing that you can do to your confidence is judge yourself and beat yourself up and make yourself wrong and literally should all over yourself. And the way to eliminate that is twofold. There's the personal development aspect and there's the professional development aspect. And the personal development aspect is your self-talk. How are you treating yourself on a regular basis? Because the fastest way to sales mastery and self-mastery is in how you're speaking to yourself and in how you're treating yourself. If you're going into these sales conversations and you're feeling insecure and you have fears and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to go have the money conversation, or I don't feel like I'm equipped to have this conversation, then you're already setting yourself up for failure. The fastest way to set yourself up for success in this regard is to go into it knowing that there is a richness in every single experience. So every discovery call, every strategy call, whatever you want to call it, every sales conversation that I have ever had, I have gone into it with a curiosity to learn about myself, about my ideal client, and about how I can even be of more massive service, because my number one goal is always to give massive value no matter who I come in contact with, whether it's a client or not a client. I want to leave an impression on that person. I want them to feel like, wow, that Rebecca Matthias girl, she really enriched my life. And so when you go into it with this energy and this idea of there is wealth in every sales conversation, whether the client books or not, there's not just the monetary wealth, you are obtaining information. So if you get to the point where you say, listen, this is how much my services are, and the person's like, whoa, I would never pay that much. That's your opportunity to stay in the richness and ask them, what would you pay? Ask a more intelligent question and you're going to get more intelligent information that will give you value that you can put into your wealth of wisdom within, so that the next sales conversation you go into, you have that wisdom for it. You're learning each time and you're getting better each time and you're becoming more masterful each time. And you're staying out of the self-judgment and the self-criticism, because that will trip you up and your client will feel that energy. Building your confidence as an entrepreneur is going to come in time. And it is a twofold process of you getting experience, and maybe you are afraid going into the sales conversation, but you're going to do it afraid anyway. If you're afraid of cold calling, if you're afraid of reaching out to people because you might have a fear of rejection or a fear of humiliation, this is where that self-talk will directly eliminate that, or begin to eliminate that, because you're saying, you know what, you did a great job. You go to the mirror afterwards, you put your hand on your heart, you look at yourself in the eyes and you say your name and you say, you know what, I am so proud of you. You did an amazing job. And then you start taking notes and you look at, what is the value that I received from this conversation? What is the information that I received from this conversation, whether the person signed up or not? It doesn't mean when you ask the question, you know, what would you pay for something like this? It doesn't mean you're going to change your prices. It just means that you're obtaining information. And the more that you deliver your product or service, and the more you show up fully in the sales conversation, you're going to eliminate the fear and you're going to cultivate the confidence. So another thing that I've seen show up in the conversation is people can start feeling passive or pushy. They either go into the energy, usually a type A personality would do this, where they're going into the energy and they're like becoming more pushy. And there's the opposite end of the spectrum. Usually a type B personality, more of an introvert, would be more of the passive, like, I don't want to push them with their money, so I'm not even going to address the money conversation. And so you get to the point in the sales conversation where it's time to have the money conversation, and people are either in the pushiness area or they're in the passiveness area, and the zone of genius and the zone of success is right in the middle, where it's being in the space of being of service. And you can't avoid the money conversation, because then you're not being of service. But I will say this, if you haven't mastered money to a certain degree in your own life and you have your own money drama, you need to learn how to master the money conversation. So showing up on the Q&As for the School of Feminine Fortune and getting coached by me or purchasing one of the hot seats, that is what you're going to need to do in order to get through this, because the money conversation is a big conversation and you can't go there prematurely and not expect a disaster. You have to be able to hold the hand of the person you're speaking with and know what their objections are. And if it's a money objection, or if it's a I need to talk to my partner or my husband objection, you need to know how to hold that conversation successfully in order to hold their hand and walk them through what they need to walk through. Like I said earlier, a lot of people, when they're making an investment, their immediate knee-jerk reaction is to think about everything that they're having to lose. They're not thinking 90 days from now or a month from now, or whatever the duration of your service is for the School of Feminine Fortune, 9 months from now or a year from now, that this is what's going to happen for me. I'm going to be a completely different person. I might have $50,000 more in the bank. Most people in this conversation stop in that moment of your product or service is X amount of dollars, and they're not thinking about what that product or service is going to facilitate for them in their life in order to get further along the path of success, which along comes with it usually more financial abundance. So it's going to be your job to remind them of that. And that is really stage one of the money conversation. If that's the depth of which you can go to in that money conversation, that's okay. Be where you are and then get coached on how to go deeper. Because when you talk about money and the person is like, I really want to do this, I have to be able to, I don't have the money, or then that might not be true. 98% of the time, people are in an illusion story when it comes to money. And you can't buy into their illusion when it comes to their money, because then you're contributing to their disempowerment. Your job as a service provider or a product provider is to see your client as powerful, even when they're not seeing themselves as powerful. You get to see through the lens of, I know this person can do this. When someone has a desire for something and they make a decision, next step is the decision, the money will show up, because inherent in every desire is the fulfillment of that desire. So if someone is wanting to invest with you, the resources are there. It is more of a matter of identifying where they are and going through a checklist of, do you have a credit card, or do you have a retirement account, and all of these other things that you're going to be able to run through with them to ask where that comes from. And more than likely, there's going to be an emotional scenario or a psychology that comes up underneath of this, identifying the decision, because women are great at being indecisive. That's where they stay. And so you have to be able to be equipped to hold their hand and confident enough to hold their hand during this process. And like I said, you will begin to develop even more confidence when you are developing yourself both personally and professionally, and you're getting the coaching and support that is required to build that confidence as you're having the conversations, as you're taking action, and the both will blend beautifully together to polish and hone your confidence.